served on a platter for that right hand right there. And look at Jake Paul's face. He knew it right away. He said, woo!
The arena at the Kaseya Center in Miami was filled to capacity, anticipation buzzing in the air. Anthony Joshua, the former heavyweight champion, made his entrance with measured confidence, each step echoing through the stadium. Across the ring, Jake Paul appeared composed, exuding the confidence that had carried him through a string of high-profile fights, though his inexperience against an elite opponent was immediately apparent. From the opening bell, Joshua's strategy was clear. He relied on his superior reach, timing, and experience, circling carefully and testing Paul with probing jabs. Paul, known for his unconventional style and unorthodox approach, attempted to impose his rhythm early, throwing combinations with varying degrees of success. The contrast in skill levels became evident within the first round, as Joshua avoided significant damage while landing precise, powerful counters. Observers noted the psychological elements at play. Joshua's calm demeanor and controlled pacing contrasted with Paul's energetic yet inconsistent approach, reflecting the vast difference in their professional boxing backgrounds. Analysts watching the fight highlighted how Joshua's experience in high-stakes bouts allowed him to remain patient, measuring his opponent and conserving energy for critical moments. As the fight progressed into the middle rounds, Joshua's dominance became increasingly pronounced. Paul's attempts to find openings were met with well-timed defenses and counterattacks, exposing gaps in his technique and conditioning. The commentary in the arena and across social media focused on the narrative of an experienced champion facing a rising crossover star, raising questions about both the competitiveness of the bout and the broader implications for crossover fights in professional boxing. By the end of Part 1, it was clear that this match would not only test the fighter's physical abilities, but also highlight the strategic depth that differentiates seasoned professionals from those newer to elite competition. As the fight moved into the fourth round, the intensity escalated noticeably. Anthony Joshua began to assert more control, systematically cutting off the ring and dictating the pace. His jabs, crisp and deliberate, kept Jake Paul at a distance, preventing him from establishing sustained combinations. Observers noted Joshua's footwork, precise and economical, allowing him to conserve energy while maintaining pressure. Jake Paul, however, displayed resilience. Despite being outmatched in power and experience, he adapted his approach slightly, using lateral movement and occasional feints to create openings. These moments, though limited, showcased his ability to adjust under pressure, revealing why he had found success in previous bouts against less seasoned opponents. Analysts remarked that Paul's defensive lapses, particularly against Joshua's counterpunches, were a predictable vulnerability that would eventually influence the outcome. Midway through the round, Joshua landed a series of body shots that visibly affected Paul's stamina. The psychological toll of facing an elite heavyweight was evident. Paul's movement became less fluid, and hesitation crept into his combinations. Meanwhile, Joshua maintained composure, exploiting these subtle shifts. Commentators highlighted the contrast between a fighter who had repeatedly faced top-level competition and one whose experience, though growing, remained comparatively limited. The dynamic of the fight increasingly emphasized strategic mastery over raw aggression. Joshua's ability to read Paul's tendencies, anticipate attacks, and capitalize on openings reflected the advantage that comes with extensive professional experience. Meanwhile, Paul's attempts to force exchanges occasionally left him exposed, reinforcing the narrative that while crossover fighters can generate hype and excitement, technical proficiency and experience remain decisive at this level of competition. By the conclusion of the fourth round, Joshua had established a clear pattern: control the distance, exploit weaknesses, and patiently dismantle the opposition. The crowd's energy mirrored the tension unfolding in the ring, signaling that the pivotal moments of the fight were approaching. The fifth round marked a turning point in the bout. Anthony Joshua, having established control over the earlier rounds, began to increase pressure strategically. His combinations became sharper and more targeted, exploiting the defensive gaps that had emerged in Jake Paul's approach. The crowd's anticipation grew as Joshua's superior reach and timing repeatedly found their mark, signaling that the fight was nearing its decisive phase. Jake Paul showed determination, attempting to counter with flurries of punches designed to regain momentum. However, each attempt was met with calculated counters from Joshua. The first knockdown came midway through the round, a precise right hook that landed cleanly as Paul overcommitted to a combination. The impact sent him to the canvas, and the referee administered a count. Paul rose before the count concluded, displaying remarkable resilience despite the evident damage and psychological pressure. Joshua, observing the slight hesitation in Paul's movement, continued to press, mixing body shots with uppercuts to disrupt Paul's rhythm further. Analysts noted how Joshua's timing allowed him to maintain control without unnecessary risk, conserving energy while inflicting measurable damage. Social media commentary during the fight highlighted the stark contrast between Joshua's calm, methodical approach and Paul's urgent attempts to force exchanges, often leaving him vulnerable. By the end of the 5th round, the narrative of the bout was clear. Experience and strategic mastery were dominating raw ambition and athleticism. Paul's courage in returning to his corner despite the knockdowns earned acknowledgement, but Joshua's precision and tactical execution left little doubt about the eventual outcome. The stage was set for the 6th round to potentially conclude the match as both fighters prepared for what would become the most critical moments of the fight. The 6th round began with palpable tension. Anthony Joshua, fully aware that the fight could be decided at any moment, intensified his focus. His movements were deliberate, measured, and efficient, each step and punch calculated to exploit Paul's vulnerabilities. Jake Paul, still recovering from the previous round's knockdowns, displayed determination but exhibited signs of fatigue and hesitation that were impossible to conceal. Early in the round, Joshua landed a series of body shots followed by a sharp combination to the head, forcing Paul to retreat. Observers remarked on the precision of Joshua's punches. He was not relying solely on power, but on timing and placement. Each strike further compromised Paul's defense and mobility, reinforcing the tactical advantage of experience over raw aggression. The knockout sequence unfolded shortly after. Joshua feinted to the body, drawing Paul's guard down, and then delivered a decisive right cross that landed cleanly on Paul's jaw. The impact was immediate and forceful, sending Paul to the canvas for the final time. The referee quickly moved in, waving the fight to an official stop. Paul attempted to rise but was unable to continue, confirming the knockout victory for Joshua. The crowd erupted, a mix of relief, excitement, and shock reverberating through the arena. Analysts on commentary highlighted the sequence as a textbook example of how strategy, patience, and technical skill can dictate the outcome of a fight. Social media erupted almost instantly, with fans dissecting the knockout, the lead-up, and Paul's reaction, generating a wave of debate regarding crossover fights and their competitiveness. Joshua's dominance in this round showcased the culmination of a strategy that had been developed from the opening bell: control the distance, exploit weaknesses, and strike decisively when opportunity presented itself. The 6th round not only concluded the bout, but also underscored the stark contrast between elite professional experience and the rising crossover athlete attempting to test those limits. The moments following the knockout were tense and revealing. Jake Paul remained on the canvas briefly before medical personnel intervened. Reports confirmed a double jaw fracture, requiring surgical intervention, highlighting the risks inherent in crossing into elite-level boxing. While Paul had displayed resilience throughout the fight, the physical toll of facing a seasoned heavyweight was unmistakable. Anthony Joshua, meanwhile, maintained his composure, acknowledging his opponent with a measured nod as the referee raised his hand in victory. Analysts emphasized that Joshua's victory was not just about power, but about controlled execution, patience, and superior tactical awareness. Each phase of the fight demonstrated the depth of his experience and his ability to manage both the physical and psychological dimensions of high-stakes competition. Across social media and sports media outlets, reactions were immediate and varied. Fans lauded Joshua's performance as a masterclass in strategy and composure, while critics of crossover bouts used the fight to highlight the potential dangers and competitive imbalances when social media stars face professional athletes. Memes, commentary threads, and highlight clips circulated rapidly, underscoring the cultural footprint of the event and its resonance beyond the ring. Financially and commercially, the fight was a significant success. Netflix reported that the event drew approximately 33 million viewers globally, making it one of the most watched boxing events in streaming history. This figure, while impressive, prompted discussion, comparing crossover star fights to traditional professional bouts, with analysts debating whether the spectacle or the athletic legitimacy held more weight. For the fighters themselves, the implications were immediate. Joshua reaffirmed his standing as a top-tier heavyweight, demonstrating that experience and technical proficiency remain decisive factors in professional boxing. Paul, despite the loss and injury, signaled intentions to recover and continue pursuing high-profile bouts, maintaining his relevance as a crossover figure in combat sports. In the aftermath of the fight, expert analysis and social media commentary dominated the conversation. Analysts emphasized that while the bout was marketed as a spectacle, it underscored the significant skill gap between seasoned professionals and crossover athletes. Veteran boxing commentators praised Joshua's discipline, timing, and strategic approach, highlighting how he systematically exploited weaknesses in Paul's technique. Jake Paul's performance drew mixed reactions. Supporters admired his courage and resilience, noting that despite being overmatched, he endured multiple rounds against a former world champion. Critics, however, argued that the fight demonstrated the inherent risks of pairing social media personalities with elite athletes, citing Paul's injuries as evidence of the potential dangers. This debate reignited discussions on the legitimacy and safety of crossover boxing events. Social media amplified the spectacle. Clips of Joshua's knockdowns and the final knockout circulated rapidly, generating millions of views within hours. Memes, reaction videos, and discussion threads highlighted the entertainment value of the fight, often overshadowing technical analysis. Yet the rapid viral spread of content also fueled debate over the ethics and competitive fairness of crossover matches, with some purists labeling it a mismatch and others celebrating the heightened attention it brought to boxing. Commercially, the event demonstrated the growing influence of digital streaming platforms in combat sports. Netflix's reported 33 million global viewers reflected both the public's appetite for spectacle and the financial viability of crossover matchups. Analysts noted that while such events can generate unprecedented attention, they also pose challenges for traditional boxing rankings and the sport's credibility. Ultimately, the fight highlighted a key tension in modern boxing: the balance between entertainment, commercial success, and competitive integrity. Anthony Joshua's measured execution reaffirmed the superiority of experience, while Jake Paul's continued presence in high-profile events ensured ongoing relevance in the cultural conversation surrounding combat sports. Looking ahead, the aftermath of the fight carries significant implications for both Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul. For Joshua, the victory reinforced his reputation as a disciplined and technically proficient heavyweight, capable of handling high-pressure situations. Analysts suggest that this performance could rejuvenate his career momentum, opening opportunities for marquee bouts against other top-tier heavyweights. His strategic mastery and ability to execute under pressure reaffirm his status among boxing's elite. For Jake Paul, the loss and resulting injuries present both challenges and opportunities. While the double jaw fracture will require time for recovery and rehabilitation, Paul's continued visibility and marketing appeal ensure that he remains a prominent figure in the boxing and crossover landscape. Observers predict that he will likely return to high-profile fights, though the focus may shift toward more carefully matched opponents to balance entertainment with safety. The broader impact of the bout extends beyond the fighters themselves. The match intensified discussions about the viability of crossover events in professional combat sports, highlighting the tension between spectacle and legitimacy. Joshua's decisive win underscored that experience and technical skill remain dominant factors in professional boxing, while Paul's presence demonstrated the commercial power and audience engagement potential that social media personalities bring to the sport. Ultimately, the fight serves as a case study in modern boxing dynamics, the merging of traditional competition with entertainment-driven narratives. For viewers, analysts, and aspiring fighters alike, it illustrates the delicate balance between preparation, execution, and spectacle. Anthony Joshua's performance provided a clear reminder that mastery and strategy triumph over hype, while Jake Paul's journey signals a continuing evolution of combat sports into a space where athletic skill and entertainment coexist. The Joshua versus Paul fight, with its dramatic knockout, medical concerns, and global viewership, will be remembered as a landmark moment in contemporary boxing, a fight that captivated audiences, provoked debate, and reshaped conversations around the intersection of sport and entertainment.